This is Timur Dar with The Beat, chatting with Dean Lorey, executive producer and showrunner of the Creature Commandos animated series.
I love the backdrop.
Thanks. And I don't even notice I have my dog tag from New York Comic Con.
Oh, you do? Okay, great.
Right
That's
here.
really cool.
Yes.
And the shirt is amazing.
Thank you, Polka Dot. As you can see, I'm a James Gunn fan, as you can tell.
Yes, I had lunch with David Dastim.
Desmalchian.
Yes, I had lunch with him a while back, and all I could think about were polka dots.
Yeah, that's funny. So you've been with Warner Brothers Animation for a number of years with Kite Man, Harley Quinn.
Yep.
James Gunn has made no secret how much he loved Harley Quinn. In fact,
yeah, he was in
it.
Yeah.
Season 3. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I'm sure it earned you some brownie points, but I'm really curious how you ended up working on Creature Commandos.
Well, James had written the first 4 episodes before he was co-president of DC. It was like a passion project of his. And he had been a fan of Harley. And then when he took over as co-president and decided to make this first, it was all through Warner Brother Animation. So the executive, Peter Girardi, who was in charge of Harley and in charge of Kite Man, was also the executive in charge of Creature Commandos. So, and I was there because I was running Kite Man season 1 and Harley season 5. So he said, do you want to, we need somebody to run this. James loves Harley. And I said, great, I would gladly do it. So that's how I got into that. And it was a surprise because I'd never run a show that I didn't write. But luckily the scripts were great. So
there's so many great Easter eggs, cameos for DC Comics fans. Particularly in episode 3, when we delve into the past of G.I. Robot, we know Sergeant Rock appears, but also there's one particular cameo. I don't want to say I want to leave people surprised. I'll defer to you if you want to say it, but interestingly, it's a character related to a super team I know James Gunn is a big fan of since he was like 8 years old. Now, really, how much should viewers read into that cameo and cameos in general if these are going to lead to some kind of spin-offs or future stuff?
Yeah, I wouldn't read a ton into them, but I will say that the series is considered canon, and James was very specific about characters that he wanted in particular scenes and all that, even if they're just background. So I think he was being very careful to make sure that it would fit in with the world that he was, envisioning his DCU. But I wouldn't read in any specific, it doesn't mean that we're going to see a show, with a particular person. So,
kind of on a similar subject, obviously there's stuff that will lead into these upcoming projects like Waller, Superman, and even Paradise Lost, the Themyscira show.
Yep.
It's in the first episode. You don't get a ton, but it's definitely stuff, like I said, it's easy to pick up on. Obviously, James is the overseer of all this. I'd love to know how much coordination did you have, or do you need to know with the other teams and other projects, particularly Superman?
Well, we got some designs from Superman to keep them consistent with what we were doing. So we had some of that. Outside of that, there wasn't a ton. But in terms of our working with other shows. But we did, like, Belle Reve. The design of Belle Reve was based on the design from the movie. So we were trying to keep things consistent like that.
Kind of also leads to my next topic in terms of designs. Obviously, aside from the characters who are reprising their roles like Viola Davis or Steve Agee, we have Frank Grillo, who's making his first appearance as Rick Flag Sr. I think at the Comic-Con panel, he kind of discussed how they couldn't replicate the look for Peacemaker and Superman, but he really is keen in the future to do the white hair. I'm curious how much for the other characters and in Frank Grillo as well, how much were you able to use their likeness, if at all, for the designs?
We didn't really use their likeness that much, but we did. I'm trying to think how to answer it because the actors that we cast, for the show are hopefully actors that would do a live action version of of the movie. So at some level, I guess there was a little bleed through, but we really were. I mean, if you look at them, I'm looking behind you now. Like if you look at them, there's really not a human in the bunch.
Yeah.
They don't, it's like the bride is probably the closest, and Rick Flag, obviously, but and yeah, Grillo does look a little like that, except with no, with black hair.
Yeah. Obviously, being a James Gunn project, music is obviously a huge part of it. Much almost like he's very Quentin Tarantino with his projects. He writes it with music in mind. You have some Eastern European punk rock, like Gogol, yes, and Dresden Dolls.
Yep.
I assume, I'm curious the process of getting them their music. Was it pretty much painless, or was there a process involved?
It was painless, and all of those song choices were in the script. So all that was decided before we even started producing the episodes. So and Gogo Bordello, oh yeah, you haven't seen this episode yet. We see them in an episode.
Yes, with the bride and Eric Frankenstein, the flashback. I've seen
oh,
the
you saw that? Okay, yeah. All right, so yeah, that's right. So it was very easy with those guys. I mean, they were excited to do it, and so yeah, it was a kind of a breeze.
Finally, much like Peacemaker, when James Gunn did that show, I think the brilliance of that first season is he did it. It's very self-contained, but there's enough in there story material that kind of sets up potential second season, because you never know if there's going to be a second season for a series. You hope.
Yep.
I have a feeling for this Creature Commandos, it's the same case where it's done in one, but if it does well enough, there is a potential for a second season. I'm curious if this is a kind of wait and see, or are the plans set in motion for continuing the story of Creature Commandos?
Well, we very much want to do a second season. And right now, it's really just kind of dependent on when James is going to have time to write it. But it's but yeah, we very much want to do a second season. You'll see at the end of episode 7 of season 1 some of our thoughts about what that might look like. So so yeah, we're definitely planning to do it.
Awesome. On that note, Dean, it's been an immense pleasure chatting with you.